There's a lot of ways to do bonsai. You can buy them from nurseries and just get a finished one. But my preferred method, and it's probably not the most orthodox, is I start from seedlings, I find saplings, I look in the landscape and I'll look around and say, look into that shrub there. There's a winged elm. You're going to pull it out? Well, you might just grow it in place and just keep cutting it back and see if it develops. That's how this sweet gum got developed right here, okay? And then that winged elm right there, that was it growing in the landscape, and I just kept cutting it back every year and playing with it, and I got that. This winged elm here was in harm's way of a parking lot, and it's found in the landscape, and it was rescued from certain death. So those are different ways to do it. And there's a lot of rules in Japanese bonsai and less so in Penjing, which is Chinese bonsai. They call it that. And I think really basically the Japanese more or less adopted miniature trees from the Chinese. So Penjing became bonsai when it went to Japan. So one of the things I like to do here is start a small forest. This right here, you see that? I had that on a rock at home. That's a winged elm. It's got a pine tree in it. And it's pretty mature, but it was just way too heavy to bring here because it's about this wide and the rock's about this thick. But what I did with that rock was I made a little clay dike around the edges there, and I drilled some holes in the rock. You don't need many because it dries out fast. It's only about this much soil. And then I put in some medium and I planted those little seedlings I had been growing. And if you want to start a seed, this is a good tool for, we're going to talk about bonsai soil in a little bit, but when I just get this going, I use just regular potting soil. So we're going to start with potting soil, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about bonsai soil in a little bit. One of the things I do with this, and this has been pre-done, I took this really fine screen here, and I sifted the really fine stuff out of it. So that was in here instead. And I started that way, and I sifted this down to where I didn't have really, really small particles, because they tend to collect and clog up at the very bottom. So you don't want any particles smaller than what goes to the screen. That goes and you get rid of it. So that's been pre-screened. And then I had some debris in this, and I'm doing this all very quickly today, guys, because we have a lot to cover. If you go to your next page, your second page, you got different styles. And they don't show a twin in here, but you can see there's a clump style, and there's a forest grove, which we'll get to, and there's an upright, and there's an upright, informal upright, and they're slanting. But at any rate, here I think we're going to do a twin trunk. So that's what I'm thinking, because we got two nice, it's a co-dominant stem there. Normally, in a good growing situation, I would not keep this. I would get rid of it and just have a single trunk coming up here. So, and I'm going to make this a lot shorter. And I got something easier on my hand here. Well, it was here, but here it is, right here. I'm going to come down a little bit more here, and okay. And what I'm going to want to do, and I get this little rake here. Yeah.
Do you want to cut like above a node, or does it matter?
I didn't worry, I'm going to come back and get that. Yes, okay. But I do want to cut above a node, and I did actually. I saw that where the nodes were, and I probably should have said I'm cutting above a node right now. But it's going to take a little more refinement in a minute. You see this one right here? I'm going to remove it because it's a co-leader. It's a co-dominant stem right here. It's going to be weak. It's a weak attachment. Oh, okay. See how narrow it is? Yeah. That's a real weak attachment. But when we get down to it, I'm going to bring it down pretty far, but I just want to get to where, you see if we see some heavy roots in the bottom. What we want to do now is, yeah, you see, there's that root that's right here that's not going to let you get where you want to go. So I want to go out, and then sometimes I do this and I lose a plant. But you know, I got to take that chance because you're not going to get the bonsai you want. And then of course these are the weeds growing in it. Goldenrod and a few other things, but like in the cooking shows, they have stuff pre-cooked on the side, you know, but that's not how we're going to do it here. Okay. So I see that big root right there. I'm going to go after it. This is a nursery stock, anywhere between 1 and 7. This is probably about a 3-year-old nursery plant, about 3, because it's in a 3-gallon. Yeah, I'd say it's about a 3-year-old stock. Again, in bonsai, it's not how old it is, it's how you get it to look.
And do you recommend, can you do the same thing with flowering shrubs like azaleas?
Yes, yes. You see, I'm sticking to natives, but yes, I've done azaleas. In fact, there are some people who do bonsai that do nothing but azaleas. Some people do nothing but Japanese maples. And so what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get my roots more in a pancake situation here. So see where I'm headed for is some of these, like here and here, going down. Oop, don't mean to get anybody in the front row. Okay. This is pretty drastic, I admit, but now, yes. Now, this is the stage I'm going to grow it in. I've done about as much as I want to do on this one right here, that just from experience, yes.
Is there a rule of thumb as to how much you're taking off the top and compared to
Actually, the story behind that is the rule of thumb we have is in arboriculture and landscape, if you're going to dig a plant, never take the top off. Just dig it properly. Dig the right size root ball of the plant, because you can reduce the recovery of a plant because it doesn't have as much green leaves to make carbohydrates. Okay, so, but I'm going strictly for style. I'm going to say, gee, I want my twin trunk to be about a certain height right here, and it's not. I'm probably taking. Not in bonsai. Every place else, yes, maybe so. You might want to, if you're going to dig a plant, you're going to measure the diameter of the plant, and you're going to say, I need an 8-inch ball, or I need a 10-inch ball, or a 10-inch, soil ball around the size of it. And there's a rule of thumb for that. But there's not necessarily, what I'm doing here, you're off the chart. I mean, what we're doing here is strictly. You're Kentucky windage. You know, you're gonna take this plant to a point to where you can get it to grow in that container, and hopefully it survives. But anyway, I would have normally done this. A little dowel stick. Normally I would sit here with a very good potting soil. Okay, we'll talk about bonsai soil in a little bit. A very good potting soil, and I would work it in this way over a period of time, take a little bit more potting soil on it. I'm going to recover this later today, so I have time, and I would take this and I would say, okay, because in terms of time, I'm going to be careful. Now I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say to myself, I don't like this right here, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off. And I'm going to take this off right here. I'm going to look, and right here, I'm going to put a little slant to it, but I'm going to get a sense of, okay, there's my internode right there. And I'm looking for a bud along here, and they're very hard to see sometimes. They're just very, right where my thumb is, I see a bud that's going to be about there. So hopefully it'll break out from there and I'll get something from it. So, okay. That's using a nursery stock. This was not nursery stock.
When you go to the nursery, how do you choose a plant?
The one that looks the worst. Ooh, look at that one. Yeah, somebody forgot about that plant. It's been sitting there. It's kind of laying on its side, and you're going, and it's got character. You know, when you go through, there's a lot of, like the nursery industry is very industrial. It's an industrial plant production. So you see a lot of uniform plants. That's the best way I can describe it. But every now and then you see that little outlier in the nursery, and I couldn't, you know, nobody wants it because it doesn't look like the perfect plant. And you go, oh, and so that's when those are the ones I go for in a nursery situation. Basically, I like to look in the landscape and see a plant a tree like this sweet gum. I knew with sweet gum could not grow through the azalea where we were, so I said, and it had a little character down here, which I liked a whole lot. This trunk had character to it, as did that had character to it at the bottom. I said, ooh, that looks good. So at any rate, I saw this, and it's been growing in a container now for a while. What normally I would do with this, I'm gonna do this one thing here today. You see these two roots, one going over the other? They're making a scissors right here on this trunk, okay? So this could girdle that side of the trunk. So what I'm going to do with this root right here is I'm going to go ahead and cut right there. Okay, and then I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to come underneath here. And I've seen this happen on large trees. I come in years and I have to remove a girdling root. Well, this probably through, okay, now, if this would have stayed here, this little junction of the two roots, they would have grown like this, and it would have stopped any growth on the side of the trunk. We're already starting to get a little swelling from this side, as you can see down there. So I want that to be free. And so under normal circumstances, I like the height here. I might drop that bottom a little bit. Like I'd come underneath here and drop this a little bit, and I would kind of tickle out using, I have another thing here. This little chopstick is really nice. And I put a pencil point on the end of it, and I would work it out, and I would tease out these roots out this way. And I'd look for any more girdling roots I had in there, because you can kind of see, if you look at that root there, which I'm going to leave this right now, see how far, do it this way. See the girdling it was already doing? You got to look, because that, you could be growing this really great bonsai, and then suddenly one side of it dies. So, I have to look at my cheat sheet here. We took care of seedling. I'm not seedling, but we did seed, and we did some nursery stock. I'm going to read down this for a minute. And so we did that. So I like develop. Yes.
How long would you wait after you repotted that plant to say, okay, I want to cut it back a little bit more?
I'd probably let it develop the season.
Oh, a year?
Yeah, this whole season, and then you know, I'm looking at this right now. I kind of like what I had here. This is what I would remove, and I'll do it right now. I would not come down drastically. I may not like this height ultimately. You know, I might want to come down a little bit more, but I kind of like where it's going here. But this is, see this little piece right here? That's not going to do much for me. So the only thing I'm going to do this season is, I see where I got a little node there. I'm going to shorten this out to about right here. And my goal here is, oh, we had a little broken piece here, so it's not, I see a little bud. Okay. What I'd like to be able to do, normally in bonsai, you would get a branch on the right-hand side, then on the left-hand side, then on the right-hand side, then on the left-hand side. It would be an alternate branch, okay? And what you want to do is kind of pyramid it, because you don't want the top to shade out the bottom. And if you look, that rule applies to, when I say the rule, the technique applies to, if you look at the formal upright, the informal upright, even the slanting to some degree, and you can kind of see that in the forest group, and you can see that in the raft, and in the cascade, it's a little different, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you don't want what you want to do here is form, I said it was a question, but let me just, you want to form enough foliage to get like a foliage pad here and a foliage pad here. I tend to be, what's the word? I tend not to be stuck to the rules. I'm going to work with something, I'm going to manipulate it in a way that it strikes me that the tree is going to grow that way. Anyway, because a lot of trees and a lot of plants have this genetic predisposition to growing in a certain pattern, and it's following the general pattern of the species, but it's not going to grow just like in the picture. Yes?
Is it better to trim it when it's at this stage or when it's blooming, or can you?
I like doing dormancy pruning. So yeah, in January, I like doing this, but then as it's growing, you know, you get an active growth and you really are looking for it not to get too much taller. This is not too bad. I can live with this, but a lot of roots down here at the bottom. So I'm going to probably leave it in this container, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to allow it to grow some more new roots. Because new roots are important. The bigger these roots get, the more they take up the space, and you need new fibrous roots to take up water and nutrients. And I'll show you in a second. You see? And okay. I've cleaned off the bottom of this. It's not a lot, but it's enough to where I got another year on this before I have to do this again. And I don't want it to get too root bound, so I'm seeing where I'm getting some circling here, right here, and I'm going to take out a couple of those spots there. There, not so much so, little fibrous roots. I might come back and get one, and I might go in here like a little wedge, like that, and that. And these little wedges you take out, I put in fresh soil. You can do this with regular bonsai too. Let's see where this is. Probably get a little wedge right here. And it's like take a little pie wedge out. Now, when I'm really taking my time doing this, I might take some more out, but that just gives you an idea what you can do. Especially if you're late in the season and you're doing this, that's the most you want to do. But right there, now here's, you just saw one, but I got an, oh yeah. Let's see. This, I'm seeing anything that's heavily root bound. See, this is heavily root bound right here, but it's still coming from nursery stock. And let's see if I got anything else here. Nope. What are we going to do with this? Now this cypress will ultimately make a nice little bonsai. Here's the first root on it. A lot of roots on the bottom here. I know this, but you know, I'm doing this in the dormant season. I want to point this out. I'm doing this, and I'm late. Normally, I asked Patty if I could do this earlier, but we had a speaker before me. So what happened was, it didn't work out to where I was going to be able to do this in January. What I'm doing today, I would normally be doing maybe mid-January. But the roots going down here. Now this, I'm going to see if I have anything that's going to keep this from getting into a shallow pan. And we got one really big root here. And you see that one right there? I got two. One's growing over the other. One might strangle the other. So what I'm going to do with that is, and I'm almost sure this will, I'm taking out that one. I'm looking at the thickness on here from where and what I'd like to be able to see if I could do this here is if we could do, that's a little high. I'm going to see if I have anything else. No, I'm going to come down some more. because, you know, it's like you're not going to have a bonsai if you don't bring this down. So, and look, I've done this and they don't skip a beat, and sometimes they just die the next day. So, but it's, again, doing it this time of year. I'm digging a cypress right now, and that, let's see what I'm going to get right here. I want to get this down a little farther. I'm going to see where I'm looking at roots along here. This is where the first good root is. I could lose a couple of roots along here, but I'm going to flip this over again. And this is a size tree you could probably bear root. And I found out this is as far as I'm going to go with it right here. And I actually expect this to survive. You may not think that, but I do expect it. It's going to get daily watering. Okay, that's as far down as I can take it. We might lose some roots on the upper side of it. And again, these are going to get repotted when I get home. So normally I would use on this is not ready to be a bonsai yet, so this is going to go into a box. But I'm going to use this just because it's light and it's easy, and dragging these boxes here is a real pain in the butt. But anyway, also too, I'm looking at this tree. In the swamps, you ever seen like the top knocked out of a cypress tree and there's a lightning strike that comes down the side of it? You could do that about right like that, okay? Cut it, and then you could take a knife and you strip some bark off of it, and there's a material called lime sulfur, and you could spray it down, you know, paint it down the side, and it'll look like a lightning strike. Okay, I'm going to probably grow this one in a shallow container, and next year I'm probably going to go after it. You know, I'm going to take this off right here, but I want some branches down here, so I got to make a command decision. What do I want to do? Am I going to throw the dice? You know. Yeah, it's a hard decision. I have time. I'm thinking about it. That's what I really wanted to do. I looked at it initially. I knew it was going to be a drastic. I want you not to be afraid to do drastic actions and not be afraid to lose some plants. You get a bunch of cypress seedlings. You can plant them in the ground. You know, and you can work with this size a whole lot. You can bring it down, and if you want to go to immediate, you know, bonsai kind of situation, hopefully it would live. But if you grew it in the ground, you would come every year and you'd get underneath it, and that would be the trick. When you're ground growing, when you see a plant like that one was growing, what I did is I got my shovel and I would get underneath it, and I would come on two sides, like say a left line, a right line, you know, part of a rectangle, and I would dig my shovel straight down, and then I would go underneath the tree itself, and I flip it up. I kind of break it from any roots that are going deeper, because garden soil tends to be very friable, so the roots can grow down. So you just, and then you let it sit back on the ground, and then come back the next year and get the other 90 degrees of it, and you dig on that side. And that happened with that one. I kind of more or less did it with that one. It was in that parking lot. So, you know, it can work real well. And then you don't have to deal with what I just did, because that's strictly a nursery plant that did that. So I'm thinking I'm going to do it. I'm looking for some bumps. And I think I know where I want this to happen. I have a little Japanese saw. I do this when I'm in my mindfulness state. But I think this will make it. And then what I'm hoping to get out of this is, it's going to branch out. You know, it's going to sprout out this summer or spring, and I'm going to make sure that bottom stays pretty clear, and I'm going to get a little piece growing out this way, a little piece growing out this way, and when you see in the swamps how the tree's been topped and it has just a little branching, it's very sparse on the top. That's what, and actually, that style is called flat top. And Guy Guidry, who's a Louisiana guy, back in the 80s in Lafayette, I met him. And I think he lives around here now. But anyway, Guy Guidry developed that style of bonsai. And you see those styles on your hand out there? They're all accepted by the Japan Bonsai Society, the American Bonsai Society. And there were no styles like that. Well, they actually named the style. They said, we're going to call this flat top. So he actually, this guy from Louisiana, created a whole new style for bonsai enthusiasts. Now, one of the bad things about it is people go around in the swamps and you can dig. Cypress are a pretty good tree to transplant. That's why I'm doing this. I may not be doing this with a few other species, but this one I feel good about. But anyway, they'll see like a real swelling at the base, and I say it's like, oh, this bigger. It's up here. It's about 6 inches in diameter, but it's got all that fluting in it, and they'll come and cut out underneath it, put it into a big nursery container, set it in a nursery container. I just don't believe in taking them out of the wild. I just, you know, if I can't grow it in that way, then I'm not going to go take it from nature. They say, oh, it's a roadside, somebody's going to get at it. I said, well, nobody's cut that tree down yet, so it's a state tree too. But anyway, this could work out really well, and this could make a little miniature bonsai in a container about this size, with this height being, you know, it might get a little taller, so we'll be with branches out this way. You could even get this into a slightly smaller container. Maybe, just maybe, and hopefully, we could get it into something like this. But we'll measure, you see, 2/3, so this would be 1/3 higher. I'd love to see it go into this container right here. But I'm gonna leave that there right now. Oh, at least a year, at least a year. Yeah, maybe 2. Yeah. What I'll do is I'll come lift on them a little bit, you know, and I'll kind of play with it. I'll look on the edges and see how the roots growing all the way to the edge yet. How strong is it sitting into the, because like, that's rooted, you know. And I just messed with it and it's rooted, and that one was really heavily rooted. So yeah, kind of like, I do a bunch of little things. It's hard for me to explain exactly that, but yeah. Does that make sense to you? Good. We're getting that. We're heading that way. Okay, on this one, you might, but first we got to see what grows out here. This is just taking a small cypress sapling or cypress nursery grown. That's probably 2 years at best. You know, it was probably grown in a three-gallon container. Maybe they grew it in about 1.5 years for market, because generally market in the nursery industry 1 to 7 years on most plants is about the age of them. But this one is a bit younger, and what I really want to do here is create a miniature bonsai and a pan. And that's what bonsais are not pots, they're pans. I was corrected a bunch of times, but about bonsai, this is a pan. Tree in a pan. Bonsai, translated, my understanding is tree in a pan. Tree in a pan. Yamadori bonsai I collected from the mountainside, and I noticed it in some people emailing each other around here when they start talking about bonsai. Oh, I got a Yamadori. Well, they collected it in somebody's vacant lot. That's not a Yamadori. It's not a mountainside, you know. So I try not to use those words, but anytime you can collect in a rescue situation where you're rescuing plants that you know they're going to be destroyed, yeah, I would go look at that property, and if you knew when they're going to take down that, you know, that lot or something, and you see something really interesting. There was a plant that was too big for me to bring over here. It's in a 30-gallon container. It's about this big around and this high. It was a parsley hawthorn, and I thought about bringing it, but it was across the street from my house, and unfortunately the developers cut everything down. So I went over before they came, and I dug it out at the right time of year, and it's about this big around right now. It's about this high, and it's got a bunch of sprouts coming around it, and I'm going to have to work that out, you know. But it's taken me years to find. What I'm going to do is, it's about let's say about that big around where I cut it off, okay? And there's a whole bunch of callus material growing around there. And then branches are coming out from that callus material, and I'm gonna pick one of them and make the new leader. But this will take years and years. I might die before it gets done, but I'm gonna make sure a friend of mine gets it that's younger than me. We'll get to it, but I want to do this one next because I can start kicking stuff out of the way. My favorite is the forest planting. You know something, Patty? I got time, and I don't have. I can back off a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Take a sip of water. You're doing great.
What is the best plant or tree to start with for a beginner for the most success? Besides one that's already done at the nursery?
Oh, probably. I like winged elm, if you can find it in the nursery, because they're so durable. Cypress. You saw I wasn't afraid to cut that cypress back. I hated to do it in front of you because you're going to go home and you're going to do it and you go, he said it would be okay. And they die sometimes. Yes, I accept the fact that they do die from time to time.
Do you want me to help you do anything specific?
We're going to take a short, I'm going to kind of organize our area here a little bit. Thank you, Patty, for interceding. Now, the rules for forest settings generally are use the same species, and that way you don't have to take care of it in one way. Well, sweet gum, maple, winged elm, pine, yaupon, and something else. So, yeah, okay. Break the rules. So what do we want here? We want to do a little Louisiana forest here. And we're going to, we got to have some, I think one or two of these plants are shortleaf pine. And they're hard to tell between spruce pine. I've been using loblolly. They're not the greatest in the world. I think this is probably loblolly. I'm looking in here to see if there's these. Let me see what we got here. I'm going to take a wild guess in a minute. I was going to try to show you a difference. Okay, it might be right here. Patty and Leon's doing the filming, dug these for me on their property in Folsom. I mean, in Franklinton. I'm sorry, Magnolia, Mississippi. I'm not getting it right. I'm just talking and, okay. These needles are kind of wiggly a little bit. They kind of do this. So we think this is spruce pine. So what we're going to do with this here is, now normally I'm going to show you what I would do. And it's going to be in, there are some really slow methods of doing this that I will do, but these things bent for me enough to where I might be able to get this to work here. Now, what I will do here, nope. No, I don't think that one's going to make it. I'm just looking through here. There we go. I didn't take all, I took about a third of the root off. Now, you see these little bamboo skewers here? You can kind of set this up on the bottom here to keep these upright. What I do is these little skewers is I set them in here like so. And so they'll rot in time. And no, but I sorry for this box, and I apologize. Thank you, Debbie, for reminding me. I built this box this way. Yeah, that's geotextile on the bottom of it, okay? But if you look at the bottom, I have spacing, so it's going to drain really well, okay? And just straight, this soil right here that I prepared for this, I'm confident that, you know, like I talked about before, I kind of sieved it out to get the real fines out of it. No gravel, it's going to drain straight through. And this is a fun thing because if it makes it, you'll have a little miniature forest here, like right over there. And then when it's got all its leaves on it, I kind of work with it out. I pick up the canopy from the bottom. I keep it a little height. I keep it into the, you know, within the bounds of that container. And now these are, I have maple in here, and I kind of played with them earlier to put in here so I could use this. And I'm going to do a little pruning. And like I said, in January, normally I don't worry so much, but it's not January right now, so we'll see with this. And this might lay down a little bit. We're doing okay in time. Now, I like to, in the forest, you see trees growing in all different directions, so. Okay, these are understories right here. Now, I have, why did I bring the bread knife? I've been growing, these kind of volunteered in a container for me, and we have right here the sweet gum next to a maple. And again, in January, a little more success is possible. Okay. Yeah, because what I'm doing is a little forest setting. And I'm looking for, a persimmon. Oh. You can? You can, remember that the mayhaw I just did a little while ago? That was a fruit tree. So you can, and you get a little bitty. Well, you know, I have this, let's see, it's over here someplace. This plant right here. This is a Rose of Sharon. It's not a native, okay? It's a hibiscus. The flower is almost as big as it is on its normal size. I get huge flowers there. On this, I'll get a flower It's not that big around. You know, it's out of proportion, so you're not necessarily going to get it miniature. But you could, depending on the size, if you get a container like a big box and say get a citrus tree, okay, I say Louisiana sweet orange or Meyer lemon, you can bonsai it. And you could grow it into like a bonsai container and get fruit on it. It'll just be, the fruit will get big. Yeah, I grow Meyer lemons in a pot about, I guess about 20 inches in diameter and about 18 inches deep, and I get 20 lemons a year off of it. But I try not to, my wife would kill me if I made a bonsai out of it, so I let it grow, and I kind of, it has some bonsai-esqueness to it, but I've had it for probably 10 years. It's a Meyer lemon, and I get, every other year I get about 20 lemons on it. Okay, at any rate, I'm looking for one, oh, my persimmon. That's kind of got off track there. But and persimmons right now are still dormant, so you can pretty much, they can handle a decent pruning, root pruning. Again, normally this, what I'm doing here would be, I'm going to take this right here from the moment because I want this more here. I'm just trying to get a sense of the setting of where it would be. Persimmons can get a decent size in the forest. Okay, now I'm going to put, this is just a broken branch, and I love these scissors right here. Actually, I'll go over that. And I should have probably done that first. Let me just get this lined up and we'll get there. I'm going to take, normally I'm going to do this a little differently, but right now, these little sticks right here, you can help prop up your plants to keep them straight. And it's kind of like a tic-tac-toe kind of. And I'm just looking for this. I'm reaching over. Okay. And I'm going to bring this in a little bit. I actually stake them in place. I'm going to shorten these up like so. And then I'm going to stake them in place. And that works pretty well for me because I'll find where they connect and I just stake it down like that way and it holds it up. But generally what will happen is, and I'm not going to water in here, this is one thing I can't do, if we were doing this outside, I could water it in place and then see what kind of moves a little bit, then move these sticks around a little bit more. But that's a little trick there. You can tie with it with a little raffia or something or rot. But yes, but staking I found for me over the years, I like staking, on both sides. Say like I got the stake right here and I like the way this is connected here. So I'm going to lay this one here. Oops. No, what I'm doing is I'm overworking this thing right now, and I'm just debating how much more I can take off the bottom here and still be okay. I still have a nice little seedling there. Raffia is like it's a natural product. It's a plant product they make tie string out of. It's like a plant raffia plant that's been shredded. I don't know if it's a raffia plant itself, and it makes these long, long strands. It's like almost like a palmetto palm. Like when they make their palmetto baskets, they strip the palm. That's raffia, but it's just another version. What's that? Yeah, you buy it in a roll. any hobby shop kind of place. Okay, though we're moving along pretty good. By the way, you see all these pine trees here? People can have them. The seedlings, you want to take some seedlings home and do this? It's all. If you want-
Those pine trees, they'll get like 60 feet. So I have no idea really, what makes the bonsai a bonsai other than pruning.
Right, and root pruning.
You have to also cut roots.
Yeah.
How are you going to keep that tree from becoming what it would like to become?
I'm gonna, like this box right here, say if it grows, and I'm gonna put it onto a rock, and I build that levee around the rock, and I set this in here. I would look at each plant in there, and like with that one right there, next season I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take my little trusty bread knife, and I'm gonna cut each little tree out. Okay, and I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna set it to the side, and I'm gonna clean all of the other soil, and I'm gonna set it back in. Hopefully you'll be able to do it with that one right there. If that loblolly, loblollies tend to go about 5 or 10 years and they start dying off. And I'm thinking spruce pines might be a little bit different, but that's what I saw in New York Botanical Gardens. This is Frank Yashimura. He had his huge slab, and it was like 100 years old. And what he did is he took each plant out, and he was just cutting roots with scissors, and then using a knife to cut it, and setting each one. Each one was set to the side. The rock was cleaned off. A new levee was put around it.
To say then that you're going to assign at some point a maximum root size and hold it to that? Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds technically correct. Okay. The different kinds of pots. There's really miniature bonsai pots, and you can grow a miniature bonsai. Good luck. They dry out really easy. This one's not a whole lot easier. This right here, this is not a native plant. This is a rain tree. I'm going to probably take this out of this container this year, and this is what I'm going to do with this. Hopefully, is this kind of making sense to you guys? Okay, good. I'm going to take this over here. But I'm just, you'll see why I want to do it this way. If you look at your thing, and look at the literati. Okay. What I do is you go to the thrift stores and stuff, and you look for pots, and I'm going to see if this was I got to see what I have here. I don't think I drilled this hole in here, but you can drill the holes, and you can find vases like this and higher vases if you want to make a hanging plant. You can, and at any rate, drill a hole, and you got yourself a inexpensive bonsai pot. Okay, you saw literati down there, that one style. It's the bottom right hand corner of the pictures. Okay, I've been waiting to do this with this. This is an eastern red cedar. It just kind of popped up in the garden one day, and I captured it, and I put it in here because I couldn't find one of these soon enough, and I had to get this thing potted really quick. And I said, it looks Japanese-esque. We'll go with that. So now that it's really healthy and it's done when it's done, notice that it's that in a literati style, what it is you just have a few wisp at the top. So I'm not going to overdo that this year, but right now I'm going to come along here and I'm going to clean this bottom off. I'm going to leave just a little bit so it'll help the trunk thicken. And these branches along here will help it. It's hard for me to talk and demonstrate at the same time, but yeah, this, just so I can get some more thickness. This is year one. That's not gonna, yeah, there we go. All I'm gonna, these are like little food factories along the trunk here that I'm leaving, but that's gotta go. Okay, I'm gonna want this up here, this top. You see where I'm gonna try to go with that? But again, bonsai is all about mindfulness training and meditation, and it's a very patience thing. Right now, I'm going at this a little too fast, but this is probably what I would have gone, done, and then I would be ready. Now, what I'm hoping for is this is already broken, so I'm gonna hope to develop these branches up in here. Somewhere it'll develop, and I'll get one that you see like in there, it's gonna, and then that's where I might take a small piece of wire and wrap it in the fall. We'll do a little bit more of that. Trees grow really fast, you know, or any plant, it's gonna increase in its diameter. So if you're using wire to control, and we'll look at it in a second, you got to do it during the dormant season. I'll wire something in late fall and then take it off for springtime. I hope it's going to be a literati. This is what I'm hoping for this, but in a really small literati style. That's what I'm hoping that's going to be.
Why are you leaving the greenery at the bottom?
Okay, because I'm going to probably bring this down a little bit more. I want this thicken it up, so these carbohydrates or sugars that are formed here will probably help it develop a little bit more girth to the trunk, and then I'm not so worried about up here, but I would love to get it a little bit more. And then ultimately, I'm going to get one of these pots like this, and you can see how the literati will be dead center in a round pot like this. This will probably stay in here one more year, and I might put it into a slightly bigger pot. And then the third time up, if I live so long, I'll probably have a pan or a pot about this big around. I'm hoping that, you know, it'll be about this tall, maybe a little taller. It might go up a little bit more. So about that size right there, this height, but it'll be dead center, and it's gonna come out on a slant. And it's gonna be, it might even be like windswept, because you could do windswept with that too. And you see windswept in one of the styles in there? Yeah. So your literati could also, it can actually break the rules, and it can wrap around like this. But there's so much in bonsai, so much to talk about, you know, like there's so many little nuances in it. You can't cover it in just 2 hours, you know. So here's something I'm really enjoying. This is a native pine right here. This is spruce pine. Oh, thank you. And this is a cascade. You see your cascade style down there? Okay. Now, this is what I'm going to do with this. I'm making Patty nervous. I'm sorry, Patty. Hey, how you doing? Instead of wiring it, I'm gonna put a little cushion around that.
You're holding it that way.
Yeah, and then ultimately, if I leave it in the same spot long enough, it's gonna grow and harden, and it's gonna be, and then these right here, like, I'm gonna have to try to alter. The trick here is, I got a lot of shade going down here, so what I'm going to have to do is work this. I might do it by pruning methods. I will probably have to try to get to where no one branch is directly underneath another branch. Follow what I'm saying? And then so it's going to be spread out like that. Now the other method of doing this, and I did a sacrificial tree for this sapling. And I've done this before, and it's been successful, but this, if you go to the bonsai store, which I'm going to do a disclaimer because if you go see bonsai people, they're going to go, oh, he's crazy. I'm using cheap wire here because bonsai wire is so expensive. It's not funny. It's copper colored, it's aluminum, and you got different sizes. So what I do is I just go, I'll find something that works. But at any rate, you see now, it's like getting a lot of wraps. This is sacrificial because I don't have the time. If I was at home doing this, might be doing 2 layers of wire. I wrap the first one. I'd be careful getting around these branches. I would get these branches fashioned in such a way, and there'd probably be a root ball on the end of here, okay? So you're talking, this is your afternoon. You're getting this set up, and then you're gonna bend it down, and you're gonna bring each one out to where each plant, each branch has got its own space to grow in to get sunlight. You know, it's doable, and you can see. I mean, this is like the super short course on on bonsai, so I'm just trying to cover as many things as possible. Now, this I'm going to pass this around. Okay. Okay. I'm going to flip this. You guys got the idea for this right here? Good. I'm just going to move it. I can't. I got it. I know I got to walk real carefully, Patty. Don't get nervous. Okay. I'm going to pass this around. Patty, could you do me a favor? This is bonsai growing medium. Soil is sand, silt, and clay, and it's on the ground. And a living soil is the stuff you walk on. That's a living soil. This is a growing medium. This is bonsai growing medium. That is a special rock. It's sifted pine bark, and it's special clays fired at certain temperatures. This bucket right here I got from Underhill. 2 years ago I paid $65 for it. So that's the pine right there. When I got in the dormant season, I opened it up, the root ball, like I showed you. You know, take a nursery stock, you open it up quite a bit, and I have it growing in this. But then when I planted that, just like the chopstick, I worked it in, I set it in a container. I left probably half the root ball intact, but kind of opened up to where that material was worked in with you know, it was in the bottom of the container, that container there, and I just filled a little bit at a time, and I kept working it in. And if you use like a little, well, I'll use this skewer right here. If you use something like this and it's slightly, you know, pencil sharpened on the end, you're not destroying roots. It's not a blunt edge. But what that allows for, it has no fines, F-I-N-E-S, no really small materials. If you take a jar and you shake it up really good, and you have different size materials in there, and you start shaking and shaking and shaking, all the small stuff will gravitate to the bottom. So what happens in a bonsai is all that small stuff will fall to the bottom, and then your plant will end up sitting in water. So you want a uniform medium, or bonsai soil, you know, quote soil, unquote. And so once I get something that I know is a candidate, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to move it from nursery. You know, like a certain amount of the root ball I'm not going to have, but most of that container is going to be this bonsai medium, growing medium right here. But again, you know, it's a big investment. So, you know, each plant's got to be, you got to say, okay, I'm keeping this long term. You know, I might start out with 40 plants and come down to 10. It's a bit of a, and then you're always replacing and stuff. But I swore this year, because we're going to hopefully move, I'm not going to start anything new other than some seedlings, you know, that cypress seedling thing. But let's see. Now, branch training. Just like I showed you on that trunk, you can wrap your branches and get them where you want. like on that there, or this is another method that I really like. Okay, Patty, I'm gonna be careful. Okay.
So you want all of these moved out the way?
No, I just, so you don't get nervous, I'm gonna pretend I'm being careful. Okay. 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 Oh, we're gonna have fun cleaning all this up, huh? Crap, what did I get myself into? In your handout there, this is what I'm referring to as guying. This year, I've been looking at this and I'm saying, what am I gonna do with this? And it gets it right now. This is, I need a ladder to stand on, Jesus. Okay, let me see something here. Okay, I got, do you see how, you see like if this wasn't, yes.
Once the plants are in that medium that's,
Yes,
it's like mostly rock,
yeah.
you have to fertilize it or give it some sort of nutrient?
Okay, final container. Regular watering is critical. Summer may require 2 waterings a day. Afternoon shade in the summer. Growing medium should be a special bonsai mix, but about 10 to 15% compost added. And so that's what I do. I put about 10 to 15% compost in there. Sometimes if there's enough soil left over on that root ball that I transfer into there, and it's not a complete bare root, I don't have to add that. But also too, under fertilizer, I use a liquid organic like Super Thrive. And also too, I love this part. I get to talk about my organic touchy-feely stuff. If you can look in the forest, the type of species you're growing, and you see that forest litter, gather a bunch of that together, get your own leaf mulch, mix it in there, and make a compost pile. And that would be like a non-thermal compost. There's hot compost where you put, and that's bacterially dominant. But if you do a brown compost and you slowly make a nice, good compost pile of brown leaves, leaf mulch, and you can add a little organic material to it, but I'm very sparing on, but very slow. You don't build a heat, it's a slow brown, we call it brown compost. Okay, once you get like a nice finished material that looks like forest litter or the surface of the forest itself, because you know it's all organic material right there at the surface, probably 100%. In a 5-gallon bucket, put 1 cup of that compost in there and put an aerator in there and aerate it for 24 hours and water your bonsai with that. And you're giving it everything it needs.
What is the aerator?
Oh, it's like a fish, like in an aquarium, you have a little thing that puts bubbles into the water. Yeah, you could go to the sporting goods stores.
Bury that into the pot?
Yeah, in your 5-gallon bucket, 1 cup of compost, your 5 gallons of water, and then you put your aerator in there and let it bubble up. You can get a diffuser. Some of those aerators for like your bait. When you go fishing, you put that battery powered thing in there. Well, anyway, just like that, exactly. And that's a little more diffusing. Maybe get a big enough aerator, you put 2 of those in there. At a pet store, I'm sure you could get multiple ones, and you could set it, I had like 3 in the bottom of my 5-gallon bucket. It's been a few years since I've done this, because all my stuff's in such good compost material, I don't really worry about it. Though you do a lot of watering, so it does drain out. I will, at the beginning of the season, no more, if you use a commercial liquid fertilizer, I prefer Super Thrive. I think it's all organic. You got to look around. You can find organic materials. I try to do maybe once a month on special plants, once a month. But I'll go mid-April through about mid-June and kind of wind it up then, maybe mid-July. depends if you're getting your desired effect, but you don't have to do it all year long. And you certainly don't want to do it too far into the fall. So, am I missing any more? It's in the, I'm sorry about my scrawl there, but since I retired, sitting behind a computer terminal and typing on a keyboard, it's not going to happen. I have too many bad memories of writing reports for going nowhere that meant nothing, that I just had to write the report to make somebody in the administration of a university feel better. So, that's over. Keyboards, I just stare at a keyboard and I just go, you know. But anyway, anyway, so what I did on this handout is I kind of went at this, because this is about the first time in 20 years I've done any kind of presentation. And I really just want to be anonymous. That's what I want to be. But Patty said, if you do this, it'll bring people in. And then I said, I got you. Yeah, it's like advertisement for Wild Ones and our mission. So that, but anyway, yeah. And we'll do this. And I have somebody, Jonathan Windham, who is a landscape person and a landscape horticulturist in our parish. Next year, I'm going to get him to do this in January. And I'm okay at this, but he's really talented. He used to work at Bantings. He was a nurseryman there that everybody wanted to talk to all the time. So he would have done this, but he's a tournament guy for poker, and he's got a big tournament this week. And I knew that was going to happen, because I said, once we get to February, we're going to lose Jonathan. But I really had hoped, I'd hoped to start it out and give it to Jonathan and do some more styling. I'm kind of not doing as much styling. I just showed you what I would do with the literati, because next year we're going to do this again. We're going to do it earlier, or we're going to find a time when he can commit himself to it and come back for Jonathan Windham. You'll see. And he'll do a really great, he is like, he's got the eye. You know, it's like every now and then you meet somebody and you go, oh, they're meant to do what they're doing. Well, he's got probably about 100 bonsai in his yard, so he's really talented. And I just like, at one point we were neck and neck, and I said, no, this is not a competition. Here, I gave him a bunch of mine. Take these, because it takes a lot. On average, I spend every day in the summer an hour and a half watering. So you want to commit, you know. So if you do that, how much do you water your yard? You know, it's just like. Yeah, I mean, I endlessly having to water things, but we have a patio deck. Well, I say we have a raised deck. It's got a lot of container plants in there. We probably have about 100 containers, 110 containers of plants. So I spend an hour and a half, and about half of it is bonsai. So, you know, no, not anymore. About 35% of it's bonsai. So maybe a half an hour every day, but it's commitment. You really got to water, especially in the summer. And it's really hot and dry. You're watering some of your plants twice a day. You have to go back and look at each one, and you go, oh, this one needs water. And then once you put them into that mix right there, the bonsai mix, twice a day. See you, ma'am.
And you want them to be in partial shade?
Okay, I'm going back. It's in here. It's final container. Like when you're growing them in nursery containers and you're using a nursery mix with nursery mix plus compost, full sun, and you probably get by with water because you're in a larger container. You know, even though they're cut down containers, they have a mix in there that's forgiving. You probably once a day and you're good. But once you get to this, I'm going to go down the list here. I'm just going to go everything. We talked about seedlings, you know, when they were a year or less, and saplings. We did a sapling, and with the cypress tree was a sapling, and the mayhaw was a sapling. Okay, the mature tree, we worked on that a little bit. That's considered a mature tree. If you look in the literature, a seedling is 1 year old. A sapling is 1 to 3, but I think it's really probably 1 to 7, I call a sapling. And a mature tree, 7 plus. Real. But it's less than 1 to 3, and anything over that's considered a mature tree. But a mature tree is defined as a tree that has flowered and fruited, or made, you know, seed or whatever. So that's so kind of like strange, but it's just the way it is. And see, in my mind, This is still a sapling because it's probably about 10 years old, you know, in my mind. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Again, the scientists who write those things are smarter than me. Anyway, so we talked about that. And then initial development, we can place, if you place in a garden bed, you want to prune it on an annual basis. But again, you saw how I had to go after that cypress root and the things in nursery containers because that root, that quote, tap root forms deeper. So you want to get underneath it if you grow it in a garden, and you go down, you know, 2 sides of a rectangle one year, the other 2 sides the next year. And then one good thing about growing in the ground, it's going to get bigger faster. That is the real key to getting a really, if you're going to get a plant that's got an interesting look to it, and you've already scoped it out, and oh, look at that, I want that, then you start developing that plant. That's what I think is the way to, you know, to go about it. I love doing it that way. And in fact, Jonathan and I, we go in his property. He's towards Franklinton. We've been going in his property and scouting out and cutting roots on plants, and he comes back and gets them. I think he actually sells them sometimes. So anyway, but I enjoy going with him. So that's, if you develop in a container, like I showed you, I might look at that container, if it's like in a box for a few years, I might lift it up and cut some pie wedges out of it, and then put some fresh soil into those pie wedge vacant, you know, vacuum areas. And it's fine, you can just go buy some cheap. The people at Underhill Nursery would probably go, ah, everything I'm saying on that, but you don't want to make that investment until it's time to make the investment. And maintenance, regular watering is essential. Pest control, I used a light summer oil because we can get oh, I'm sorry, I'm hiding. That's okay, I wanted to be anonymous. I'll let you know when I go to the ashram. You could be anonymous there. At any rate, sorry, I'm got to see, I lost my place there. I apologize there. I mean, is that better? Okay. Fertilize, I'm sorry. Now, I was looking at something else. Pest control, that's what I was talking about. Thank you. I use a light summer oil, and I get that, I can use that all the way until the temperatures start going above 90 degrees. Especially in, right now, all this material right here, I'm hitting it with summer oil because scales can get on it, you know, and I'm trying to be, how can I say, organic as much as I can, but in my landscape where I don't have to use any kind of pesticides, I don't, you know, but these are specialty items, so I'm more than likely want to prevent myself from getting scale, because scale will take them down, and I use insecticidal soap. Aphids will get underneath these leaves, they'll drop honey, what's called honeydew, they kind of excrete, you know, they pee on the lower branches, and then your sooty mold forms. So using a spinosad soap, those kind of organics, it's really good to, you know, to give your, yes?
No, I've been using for years, I use a little bit of Murphy's oil soap.
Sure, sure.
Water, is that good?
Yeah, that'll do it. And I didn't, you know, I just try to stay away from, you know, soaps that have too many ingredients in them. But just we used to do, and this is what's happening with soap. Back when I was a turf manager, I was at a university, so I did all the arboriculture and landscape, but also I had to do, for a good period of time when I was there, I had to do turf management in all the sports fields. And we would worry about fall armyworm, so I would walk out into the different sports fields, and we put like a piece of PVC square, you know, like 4 elbows, and make about a 18-inch by 18-inch square, and I would get a watering can full of Dawn lemon detergent, pour it on the area and see how many insects would rise to the top. What happens is the soap cuts off the oxygen to the plants, and they breathe on their sides. So and they'll come to the surface, and then they're not dead, but you count. You go, wow, that's a lot of fall armyworms that just came to the ground. So you know you have to treat the field for fall armyworm. Okay, and then we put a can in the ground where we have, like the President's Lawn had all St. Augustine, and it was a real dry period, and we were worried about chinch bugs. I'd take an old 1 gallon can, cut both ends out, tap it down in the ground, put soapy water in there, and the chinch bugs would float to the top, and you know what you got. Because, you know, you do well, if it's hot, it's probably chinch bugs. If it's cold, it's probably, you know, or it's chilly, it's spring or fall, it's probably brown patch or one of the patch diseases. So you got to separate. That's one way of doing it. But anyway, but in this case, I'm just worried about, I don't really worry about fungicides, but on maples and the really leafy plants in the spring and in the fall, try not to water them in the late afternoon and leave water on the leaves, water droplets, because you'll get these little round spots on your leaves, particularly maples, and it'll be like a little ring spot on there, and it's all from moisture staying on your leaves too long. Try to not to water the foliage too much, just water the soil. But I tend to, if I water early enough in the morning, I tend not to worry about it, but if you have a lot of thick foliage in there, you might, you know, if you might do that. Let's see, yes. Okay, right. I think, oh, and then here's a native, one last time. This is a native hackberry. And this made a really nice group, and this was growing almost the way it was in the garden. And I dug it almost exactly out of the garden the way it was growing. And on the last page is a list. Bald cypress, here's the top of the list. Bald cypress, pond cypress, shortleaf pine if you can find it, spruce pine, and eastern red cedar. Cedar elm is an elm, and it's got a very small leaf, and it's perfect for this. You don't have to do leaf control. Some of your larger leaves, if you're using, I'm going to go further down. Let me just go. American hornbeam is a good one. Eastern hornbeam is a good one. Parsley haw is a good one. Mayhaw is a good one. Arrowwood is really wonderful. Yopon, it's got a small leaf. You never have to worry about it. Witch hazel, southern swamp maple, sweet gum, swamp maple. Halfway through the summer, the leaves got really big on them. I cut every leaf off the tree just once. And then when they come back smaller. And you can do that multiple times. Some bonsai artists do it multiple times. And it's the more you cut the leaves off completely, it comes back, you're depleting. It said, guys, we only got so much carbohydrates left, you know, so your leaves are going to be smaller. So you're kind of depleting that, but you get the effect. So this is a good list right back here. And the winged elm, I mean the winged sumac, anybody tries it, you're going to get good fall color. I've had a little luck with it, and thank you for coming.